Hey guys, and welcome to Board Game Revolution. Today I have a really great treat for you, but before we go into who we have in our interview today, I'm going to show you a really quick clip of the game Endeavor Age of Sail for their expansion that's launching on Actually, it's already on Kickstarter and there's 5 days left.
The dawn of the Age of Sail opened up an era of unprecedented connection and expansion across the great oceans of the world. Seagoing empires formed to search for new lands to conquer, new alliances to forge, and new commodities to exploit. Every great seafaring empire must balance 4 distinct paths to glory. Industry will ensure that you can outbuild your opponents. Culture keeps your empire vital so that your population will thrive. Finance guarantees that your treasuries can keep your workforce happy. Influence is the key to drawing the most from your far-flung colonies. Endeavor Age of Sail is a rich strategy game of discovery and colonization, where you are a major seagoing power, attempting to connect with and profit from the various regions of the world. At first, only Europe is open for competition. You will occupy cities and draw cards there, gaining the assets to improve your capabilities. Soon enough, you will build the means to ship to distant regions. When a region's shipping track has been completed, that region opens up, and now it becomes available for colonization and commerce. In this manner, the regions of the world are connected and opened. Players will compete to draw the resources they need to grow and to establish control over the valuable sea lanes and trade routes. Compelling decisions abound as players grapple with efficiency, strategy, and even morality. As the Age of Sail forges onward, room for expansion begins to run out, and the rumble of cannon fire shakes the globe as empires clash. When it's all over, you will score based on your levels of industry, culture, finance, and influence, on the glory points on the cards you've collected, and on the cities you control and the connections between them. The player who has built the most successful empire wins. Endeavor Age of Sail is the long-awaited new edition of the much-loved classic. We have kept the original's gripping gameplay intact, with a few small rule changes and enhancements. All new art and graphic design make the game shine brighter than ever before. The most dramatic addition is a game-changing aspect called exploits. Each exploit is a historical event from the Age of Sail that is related to 2 of the regions in the game and creates unbelievable replayability. When both of an exploit's regions are opened up, it activates. Players may then begin interacting with its new mechanisms and scoring opportunities, bringing wonderful thematic flavor to the game. Join us as we set sail on this great endeavor, bringing an amazing play experience back to game tables around the world.
Now, I already own Endeavor, and I love this game, and I'm really excited about the expansion. And with me today is none other than Jarrott Gray. Jarrett, how's it going?
It's done good. I'm going well, yeah.
I'm
How are
doing
you?
I'm doing very well. It's such a pleasure to actually get to talk to you because Endeavor has been one of my favorite games as of 2018. I didn't get to play it once it first came out, but wow.
Yeah, it was pretty hard to get copies of it once it sold out.
Yeah, the main game that came out in 2009, I had seen others have it, but I never really, I guess, really got into it until, you got with Grand Gamers Guild, and I saw the pieces and everything. I was just enamored with it. So thank you for that.
You're welcome. Yeah, I mean, I was really keen to get it back into people's hands. I know that people liked it the first time, but it sold out pretty reasonably quickly, and And, we were with Zeman at the time. They never wanted to do a reprint. Lots of other things going on. And when we got the rights back, I sort of looked around for someone who kind of shared the vision that we had for the game. Like really wanted to put their mark on it as well. And that's like Burn Island and Grand Gamers Guild have done a wonderful job. Definitely part of that was, Josh, he did the art for us the first time. And, he's like art directed the expansion now and the Age of Sail, and it's just fabulous.
Yeah. I can't agree more. But before we go more into detail about that, let's know more about you. Jarrott, what got you into board gaming and got you into the hobby?
I've been board gaming, like role playing, like pretty much forever. I think the first, like everyone, played something like Monopoly when I was 5 or 6. Played all sorts of games back then. I think one of the games that kind of stood out to me was this racing game called Tetopoly, where you train your horses on one side of the board, you flip the board over and you race them. I used to play that like lots with friends of mine when I used to go stay down in Dunedin, which is a smaller city in New Zealand, in the south of New Zealand.
Mm-hmm.
Cold in the winter. Though my publishers would say it's nothing like Canada. So. I just sort of I grew up with games really, and I even sort of started designing things on paper, role-playing games and stuff when I was young, and it's kind of always just been there. Then obviously something like Settlers comes out, board games change quite a lot from some of the stuff that I used to play when I was younger. Though I think my first kind of game that brought me back into this sort of board gaming I've been playing like wargaming and different games like that for a while was I played Civilization 2, I think. This was probably just before Settlers had come out, and I really it's like a stupidly long game, but I really enjoyed it. I was like, wow, it's one of those games where attacking is kind of like it's not heaps of problems, but there's lots of trading going on. And then, Settlers comes around and it's like the trimmed down version of that. And from there, I think the hobby's just kind of grown and grown in lots of different directions. And it's really amazing to see all of the designs and mechanics and so many like talented people just like getting involved in this hobby now.
Yeah, I can actually see some hints of civilization in your game, because your game is about area control, and also kind of fighting your opponents, for land.
Yeah.
And it's all about who controls the most.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's true. It is. It always sort of, I think Carl and I both kind of enjoy that sort of game, that engine builder, that civilization developer type of game. And so it was, I think that was when we first started designing Endeavour. It was like forefront of our minds. We kind of wanted to take the idea of, you've got a city, and how do you build up that city and use that city to go out and influence the world. And that's kind of where the original concept came from. And our first prototype was terrible. I mean, it was great. Like we'd like play tested it heaps just amongst ourselves, but then we took it to friends and it was like, this is a bit complex. And it took us too long. We took some of the mechanics that we quite liked from it and pushed it forwards and tried to trim it down until we came up with Endeavour. And there are things that we took out of the game that we put back in at the last second to like make it really sing. But it was obviously, designing a game, and certainly a first game, or a first game that you want to get published, because I designed quite a lot and Carla designed quite a lot, but there's a point where you go, hang on, we've got something here. We think this is something that people might want to play. And I'm sure some other games are like that as well, but that was the first one. It's like, yeah, okay, let's see what we can do with this.
When I first played your game, I was a little, I'm going to say, just worried with setup. because when you set up the game, it's all about putting those little tokens on every little spot. But realizing how beautiful that melds into your builds, I have to give you so much credit for that. Like, taking those tokens and putting it right on your boards so you can actually see what your engine is on it. It's so beautiful and how that mechanically worked. How
Yeah,
did you guys come up with, we're going to make these where they're reusable?
yeah, it was. I guess one of the things that we always was the idea that you could always calculate what your score was, and at first the tokens, the icons, they were actually on the cities on the board, and so it was really hard to go through and just sort of quickly tally up what your total was, because you'd have to scan the board. And I mean, lots of games are like that, but we had a lot more of that going on because they're on the buildings and they're on the cards and they're on the board. So pulling it all towards you made it much more easy to calculate. But I guess the downside of that is that everything ends up on the board, and you have to do that setup, which I just dump everything on the board and just push it around. And I don't care whether it's face up or face down because it's all random. Like I
Right.
don't need the bag. I just like dump and go. It'll be different every time. There's 95 of those little tokens,
Yeah.
so
I mean, those of us who got the collector's edition, we love. I love the wooden pieces, and I don't ever want to lose them. So I'm not gonna.
uh,
I'm not gonna
wooden
dump
pieces
it.
are way better than I thought they'd be too. Like I was like, I really wanted. I like when we're discussing the campaign, the Age of Sail campaign. That was one of the things that all of the backers wanted. I was like, man, I'd really like different sided player tokens. And they were like, well, let's do the wooden tokens because that's what everyone wants. I'm like, okay. And then I got them. And they're so beautiful. They're so
Yes,
much fun to play with.
they
Like,
are. I mean,
yeah.
I'm glad you conceded on that because that is something that
I
you got.
really conceded it. I just was like, let's just do it. And the idea was that if we did something with the player markers, it'd be too busy,
Mhm.
which I think that it works really well, the combination between the two. And yeah, I'm pretty happy with that the aesthetic of them both now. They look great.
Yeah, I mean, going back to the tokens, just it doesn't feel like the same game anymore. It's like there's just something about those wooden pieces, and I have to say, for me, that typically doesn't is not something that affects me. But for your game, it feels so substantial because I'm acquiring these, you know, money. I'm acquiring, shields and all this, and just to pick up that wood is nice.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I've played the original many, many times. I played with just cardboard tokens, and most games have cardboard tokens. Like, and there's nothing wrong with them.
No.
They're functional. They're great. But yeah, I was surprised how much I loved the wooden tokens as well. Then yeah, it's awesome to see them back. For people who didn't get them, to grab as an add-on now, which or maybe if you don't want to lose one,
That's right.
right?
Get an
You get a
extra
stick.
set.
Yeah.
I'm so down for that. But let's go into the original game. It came out in 2009. How was the reception when it first came out?
Yeah, it was pretty good, I think. It climbed like into the top 20 on Board Game Geek. Uh, I want to say 18. It might have gone higher. I can't remember, but I'll hedge my bets with 18. It's dropped out of the top 200 now, but there's hundreds, thousands of games that have come
Right.
out since, and it's always difficult to hold a rating. But that was certainly a treat to get up that high, and I think it got nominated for some awards as well. So yeah, just pretty happy in general with like how people receive the game and the conversations about the game, and that's sort of one of the things that we kind of like looked at, and the conversation is still ongoing now regarding a certain mechanic. But I think it's important that people have this conversation, and that they don't kind of ignore it. And even if they choose to, not use it or not play it, they've still had that conversation. So
I mean, do you want to actually talk about it? I mean, because
yeah,
I
cool.
feel like the slaver mechanic cards in there, I mean, it's very fitting to the time. You know, is that what you were talking about?
Yeah,
Just wanted to
yeah,
make
pretty
sure.
much. Like I don't. Yeah, I mean, lots of games try to skirt around it or ignore it, and that feels wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And um, especially when you play a game for a while and you realize, they're not really talking about this thing. They're talking about something else. They're talking about slavery, even though they're not saying it.
Right.
Um, and we didn't really want to do that. We kind of wanted to explore the stories of the era. Like once we'd come up with our concept and we started working on the game, and then we're like, at the time, there weren't a lot of games in that era,
Mm-hmm.
in that colonial era. I'm sure there's heaps now. Um, so we sort of like, well, let's tap into that 17th century sort of time period and see, there's not a lot going on there. Maybe we'll make a game in there. And then, just do lots of research and you find out heaps of things. And it's not the nicest of timelines for sure. The players, the powers that the players are representing, that they're not necessarily the way they went about taking over the world is not actually like that fabulous. And slavery is an aspect of that.
Right.
The whole colonial imperialism, I mean, it's kind of fraught with all sorts of problems. And to get the game kind of balanced and like intuitive and quick and fast and kind of elegant, we paired a lot of our awesome stories that we'd found out of the game, and we kind of turned them into icons when we first made it, which makes the game really streamlined. And the one we didn't take out was the slavery one, where you can abolish slavery, you can invest in slavery, you can choose not to, and there's penalties for doing so, but rewards for doing so early. And it kind of like the whole ebb and flow of it was like, I guess the idea was to have people have the opportunity to see the impact, but also to talk about like the fact that this thing which pushed me ahead, like it's not a great thing.
Right. I mean,
Yeah,
and I think it's a good thing to have, historically accurate representation because it brings about social, engagement and conversation, and to just say, and I've seen it in a lot of games, and I've also seen it when publishers have asked others, would you be opposed to me putting this in the game? And people seem to like, oh no, you can't have it in, but it's something that happened, it's something that's real, we can't ignore the fact, it is our history.
well, we shouldn't ignore the fact.
Right.
Like it's still ongoing. Like it's not like it's a problem that's gone away.
Right.
It's a problem that persists. Like so much of certain countries' culture is like just defined by it, and it's difficult to get away from. And it's still something that exists today. People are still enslaved. It is something we should not forget because we kind of have already forgotten a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't know. It's a difficult thing. You want to play a board game for fun, and we want people to enjoy playing Endeavour as an experience, but we also don't want them to forget about the fact that what they're actually playing is like this game about colonial nations taking over the world. Yeah. So
I think it's kind of funny that we're okay as a society of board gamers with killing mass amounts of people. Because that's a lot of board games. Is like, let's kill. But when it's something that just hints, because you guys don't drive it in someone's face. I mean, you're hinting on it. It's a mechanic.
it's a morality issue in the game. Yeah,
Right.
for sure.
And it causes so much controversy while the others don't. And,
Yeah.
and it baffles me.
Yeah. I mean, And that's it really. And I think a lot of people, they might see like, oh, it's got slavery in the game. Don't want to play that. And I can understand that. There's some games where they might have slavery in the game and it's kind of celebrated.
Hmm.
We tried to make it where, as I said, it's a moral question. It's a choice that, in a way, all players engage in, whether they actually use it, the mechanic or not. They're still engaging in that choice. Yeah, and some people, they'll just see it as a board game of pushing tokens around, and it's nothing to them. And other people, it means something. And
Right.
some of my friends who play tested it with me, they would never touch it. They just would never do it, and it would be like, what, and that's fine, because that's why it's there, because these people are like, I can't actually do that, and that's okay, because you don't need it in the game.
Right.
I had some other friends who got the Kickstarter last time. They got it out. They've got a family of sort of, I think, probably 12 to 18-year-olds, and they pulled out the game, and as a family they decided, oh, we're not going to use the slavery like cards. We'll just put them back in the box. But you know what? They had the conversation
Right.
at the start of the game. They decided amongst themselves they weren't going to use it. That, I don't know, that seems like they've
I
thought
think
about it. Forgotten
exactly.
about it.
You you brought up a conversation, which is really what should be a side effect of a lot of games nowadays. Besides entertainment, it's about critical thinking and thinking
Yeah.
about what's going on.
Yeah.
And to bring out social, issues and change is a nice little secondary and tertiary element of games that should be celebrated.
Yeah, well, I mean, definitely. I think games bring. I mean, that's what's exciting about games. They don't just give you like this fun social experience with your friends. They give you like either an insight into the future, an insight, or what people's ideas of the future, an insight into the past. You can look at some of the cards in the expansion that we have, and a lot of them are named now, and you can be like, well, what's this about? And you can look in the rulebook for some information on it, or maybe if you want to know more, go research. There's so many stories in this world which are like fascinating, and even if they're not necessarily good stories, it's still great to learn about them.
Right.
And I think a lot of board games give heaps of insight into like just various things around the world.
Right. And I think that's awesome. So in 2009, you guys launched, you sold out. What took you guys so long from 2009 to 2018 to finally get, the game back out there?
I, I mean, publishing deals really, like contracts. When we got it back, it was sort of a matter of finding the right people that had the right passion for it. Because I had always like had the ideas for the expansion, and they're different now from what they probably would have been then, because they've evolved. But I presented it, and they just kind of got swept away. So I really wanted to find people that were passionate enough about Endeavour to want to do more than just publish the game again as a reprint. Because there's a lot going on. There's lots of games that are just, oh yeah, let's reprint it, cool.
Like,
but
here's a second edition, and that's it.
And then like push it. Yeah.
So with your game, the re-release, you guys added the exploits to it and the expeditions. Was that basically your first expansion, and then what's coming now is your second?
Yeah, the exploits are definitely an expansion. They were a lot of work, and they actually came out of I pitched an idea for Kickstarter stretch bonuses, which was a little bit more like the the 6 cards that we've just sort of pushed now, or in fact the bonus level cards that are in the new expansion set, the level 5 cards, the ones that tell a bit of story, and I'd pitch something like that, and Helena and Josh and Mark, they came back and they played with them and they were like, yeah, we like some of these, these are pretty cool. We've tested these out. We like how this works, but we kind of want it to work this way and we want it to tell more. I was like, okay, that's interesting. Well, let's see how we can evolve it. And it became massive. Like those exploits are like, there's so much going on. Like it wasn't just like a few cards that tell a little bit of story. They're like, there's 15 of them and they tell a lot of story. So yeah, they're pretty much the first expansion. I felt like, making them was like, we've actually made an expansion here. They could be delivered as an expansion. So yeah, it's pretty exciting. They definitely add a lot of replayability to the game, and they might make it a bit more complicated. I would definitely play the original game quite a few times before diving into them, because there's already like lots in the original game. So just to sort of strategy wise to get your head around. But yeah, the exploits were pretty fun to make.
Right. And I'm with you. Like I had to play the original game probably about 5 times before I felt ever ready for the expansion. And then getting into the expansion, with all the exploits, like it gives more objective based, like I would need to unlock, the East Indies and Europe, so I can go and maximize on these points, which just added such another element and depth to the game that I didn't even think was already possible, and you guys did it.
Yeah, and I mean, it was pretty exciting to have like the support of of our publishers there to like create them. That that it was probably a good 6+ months of like just full on designing to make and test all of them. And there's a few that got chucked out the window, as you can imagine, and a few that like got changed quite a lot. But I feel like they're just like there's little different mini games in a way of like how you can use the engine of Endeavour, the basic track building, get your people, use your people, building engine to tell like other stories. It's like in Endeavour, everything's about getting board control, but these mini boards are about trying to do something else with exactly the same actions, just in different ways. So yeah, it was a really fun little project to explore. Yeah.
Yeah, and not only did you guys add the new exploits, but you also added the game trays, which I have to say that game tray for the buildings, very ingenious on having everything organized so well, that you just place it right in the center of the table. I mean, right actually on the side because you can't put on the center, and you're just like, okay, level 1, level 2, what do I need?
You just hand it around as well.
Right. I mean, was that something that your publishing team came up with, or was it with you and Game Trays that were like, let's...
Publishing team definitely sorted it out with Game Trays, but it was probably like my number one thing that I wanted from the Kickstarter campaign. Oh yeah, the buildings, I have play tested this game so many times, and setting up the buildings is like putting the tokens on the board, no problem. Setting up the buildings is just a nightmare. If you can just like pull them out, have them set up, put them away, all nice and neat. Yep. Building tray was my number one thing that I wanted from the campaign.
Oh, well, you guys succeeded in such a great job on it.
It's amazing. And then the little like trays for the people as well, like that you get for your things.
Right.
And I've seen players I played with and they take all of their tokens out and like, don't take them out, just leave them in the box. Then you won't accidentally take them and put them on the board when you're supposed to be taking them from your harbor.
That's right. I mean, you're right. People do that, and then you're just like, but why? I mean, exactly what you have, what's taken out.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's another thing that I wish more games did was individualize each player's necessary tokens and bits, which you guys did again a phenomenal job on, because there's quite a bit that each player gets. What is it, like 20 so plus tokens? You get your own starting
Yeah.
buildings.
It's 35, but there's actually 37 there, so everyone's
See?
just in case they go over there. Yeah, everyone got a bit of a bonus.
Right. So
Don't run out. Shouldn't run out anyway. It shouldn't be a problem, but
But I mean, it's just nice to have.
Yeah,
And so kudos to you guys on doing that, because I'm kind of sick and tired of getting a box and it's just like dump of pieces and then plastic bags.
yeah,
I mean,
yeah. I know how you mean. I know what you mean. I've got, especially when you suddenly get something that's like sorted in trays, and now you're like, this game has got like 9 different resources, and I really just want to put them out and like open up a tray and then just take them from here. I don't want to have to go like separate them all into piles out of plastic bags and
right.
be digging, try and find But I mean, getting trays made does cost money, and getting, putting them into boxes, it's like getting them designed costs a lot of money. So they really do probably start with Kickstarter or companies that can be a lot bigger with their productions. But it's super good that there's companies like Game Trays out there now that are like ready to do this for games.
Right. Because I'm going to say, honestly, if you take a look over your right shoulder, I got both your game and then the game right above it about within a few weeks of each other. And I was the happiest gamer ever.
Oh, this one?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're both organized so well. And I was like, why? Oh, wow, why? Why can't more games be like this? And then you get another game, it's a Fantasy Flight game, and it's like, oh, here's the cardboard and plastic.
Yep.
So let's talk about the new expansion that's on Kickstarter right now. So you have new exploits, new buildings, and all for only about $26, right?
Yeah, I don't know what the price is because I see it in New Zealand.
Hold on, because I backed it. Like, I was a day one backer. And let me see what mine was. Yeah, it's $27, 35 New Zealand.
35 New Zealand. That's pretty good.
Yeah, for what you get.
It's quite a lot in there for 35 New Zealand.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So tell us about it. What's all we're getting?
Well, we're getting, to start off with, we're getting a whole new set of buildings. And yes, there will be, my cat's coming, there will be 7 level 5 buildings. I'm pretty sure they'll get revealed over the course of the campaign. There's a whole new set of cards. And the buildings use fortify quite a lot. You don't have to, and some of the cards do as well. So there's a whole lot of fortify tokens. Now, if you get the Kickstarter, you'll get the nice wooden ones. And I believe if you get the retail, it'll just be, so get in on the Kickstarter. The retail will, I think it's just the cardboard. I think that's the big difference in the 2 campaigns. And then just revealed is a special set of cards, which is exclusive to the Kickstarter, which are level or buy-in 6 cards for each of the regions. And those are usable, like whichever set of cards you want, just chuck them in. They should be fine. But the idea with the expansion is, so a lot of people have asked, oh, why can't we just mix and match the buildings? Well, I mean, do what you want. It's your game. Buy it. Do what you like. I'm pretty sure I know exactly, like, if you cherry-picked all the best buildings from both things, I know what people would choose. But one of the reasons why I didn't design it that way is that the buildings have, there's a structure to the way you buy them. And if you look at the original, it was you could always level up your bricks, your industry. You could always get a ship, and you could always get a draw and you started with a occupy action, a colonize, and those three actions are like the main actions in the game. And if you don't have them, you'll find yourself in trouble. So we always wanted people to have access to them. And then they kind of, you level up and you can get more powerful buildings. And one of the true treats of the original set is the docks, where you can ship and occupy in the same turn. And I really just wanted to explore different ways of creating like other synergies. Like one of the buildings which just has blown me away in the expansion is, again, another third level building where you can ship and draw, and there's some crazy stuff I've seen people do with that building. They'll just go in and they'll steal cars right out from underneath you. So that's a pretty, like, there's lots of quite strong buildings in there, and the set is, I would say, faster. Like it's a more power earlier. My best example for why you don't necessarily want to mix and match is that the level 2 building in the original building set that gives you an attack action just gives you an attack action. The level 2 building in the new building set, which gives you an attack action, also gives you a ship action. You can do both.
Nice.
Both of them. It's expensive because actually shipping and then attacking someone is going to take up most of your workers. So it might be something that you don't actually do. And I was surprised to find, like playtesting the game, the new building set, how balanced it was to have this at the second level. Whereas, you throw it in the old building set and it might be like, a bit overpowered, to be honest.
Right.
Yeah, there's just things like that. So, like I say, it doesn't matter. Like, if you want to change it, change it. But it is designed to be played in a way where these buildings feed into each other going up the track. And one of the things I did notice from the original building set, and you can use that if you want as well, they're both still good. They just give you a slightly different experience. Is the top level buildings, while they're good, the lower level buildings are pretty strong anyway, so you can kind of play a low level building strategy and just ignore the top buildings. And in this new building set, you can do that, but the top level buildings are quite good.
Really?
So even like the 4s and the 5, the 4s and the 5s are like, they're worth sort of getting into. So people will kind of push up that building track a little bit more and maybe ignore the finance and culture tracks, which are probably slightly stronger in the original set. So it creates different strategies, and I think that's part of the reason for wanting to have, like, a new option for people to play. And then we've got the cards, which again, they play by themselves. They're kind of a set together, and what I want to do with the cards, and this is different, is bring back all those stories that Carl and I had found when we made the original prototype of the game. And that's something which, there's probably even more stories that we can explore. But, you get to the bottom of those decks now, and there's a big event. Things like the Declaration of Independence, which I'll tell you a story about this card, because I went to WellieCon, which is a huge con here in Wellington, and I was demoing and testing the game, the new expansion. And I had some people who, one of them had played before and the others hadn't. And they were playing a 3-player game, I think. And one of the players, she gave up 3 fortified cities in Europe that were all linked together to declare independence. And because that card says, lose all of your cities in Europe. So she gave them all up. They just left the board because she now was the USA or, America. And she won the game. And I was just like dumbfounded. Like, I I get why you do it because it's a really cool move.
Right.
But like, I could not believe that she still won the game after giving up all of those cities in Europe. It was amazing. So yeah, that was there's other little stories like that, which is I think are pretty exciting and hopefully not too complicated. I think they're reasonably sort of just work. Um, and the whole Europe deck now was like its own little crazy event stack where every time you draw a card from there, something new is happening. Whereas before it was just you get to the bottom, it was abolition of slavery. Now something's happening all the way down. So I think they're pretty exciting in a bringing back the sort of stories and events and the feel of the era, kind of I guess in the same way that the exploits do. And part of the idea of the expansion is that you can, when I say you don't mix and match, you kind of can because you can take the old buildings, use the new cards. Take the new buildings, use the old cards, and you can play it like in lots of different ways. So, like the exploits, there's just more ways of playing the game now. I think for replayability and difference of strategy.
And not only that, you guys managed to first make a really great thematic game, and now with these expansions, you're building on your history and your theme. Which sometimes when an expansion comes out, that's what it lacks. It's more about building more substance, not theme. And I'm really excited.
Yeah, I guess like that. I mean, we did add a few like little mechanics in. The buildings have the new conscription and mobilization mechanic now, where when you grow your population, you will get extra guys on these buildings, which are conscripting people. And you should probably, if you want to know about more of the horrors of the Age of Sail, like just go look up that sort of thing.
Right.
But then your armies can mobilize them. They can just be like boom, like and then like these fast actions across the world, as you send them out to either attack or take over shipping lanes. And so we added like little mechanics like that in, but all of it is really just kind of built on the strength of the kind of the really simple engine that's there, where you kind of build your tracks and you get your people that you have to send out to the world and use them to on your buildings.
And it seems
so
like with these new buildings and the cards, you're actually adding more forced player interaction, kind of, because you were saying that in level 2 now you have a shipping plus cannon, building. Which, by level 2, no one's fighting each other since there's so much, territory still left. But...
yeah, and people still probably won't fight each other that much at the start. But what ends up happening is that the building set allows you to spread faster.
Mm-hmm.
So crunch happens in the game a bit earlier. So... and even in a 3-player game, you probably find it reasonably easy to fill up the board, which I know a lot of people sometimes struggle to. They sort of are left with an area or two undone. With the new buildings, they probably won't struggle too hard on the 3-player side to do that. And the 4 players like going to be tight on there, and the 5 players super tight.
Right.
Because you get into that point where, we've run into spaces quite early. And, couple that with like the idea of fortifications as well. And then the conflict, it happens, but you can direct it a little bit more. It's like, I can protect these cities because it's quite expensive to attack a fortified city. So you can protect some of your network and like let others get taken. So there's like this weird sort of interaction and play where you might like be like, okay, I need to protect all of this. I know I'm going to get attacked because it looks like I'm winning, but like I'll protect this, and that stuff will take, and I'll fight back off these lines to try and get more points because I've protected this place. You're not going to attack here, but I can attack from here. So there's lots of little interactions like that. As kind of war breaks out, as you've expanded too far.
I don't know about you, but when I play your game, I like to kind of make deals with people. Like, I'll just build a cannon, but I'll be like, look, I won't use it unless you come after me. So I'm just saying, don't come after me. And then it's like usually they look at everybody else's board and like, okay, they don't have cannons. I'll go after them.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, oh, that's great. Like, it's just another way to play a game. I think any game where you can add in diplomacy, but it's not like it's got some, it's not like forced diplomacy.
Right.
It's pretty interesting. So yeah, I mean that's great. I generally just sort of, I know the game a little bit too well. I almost often try and just lose and fail. I hate to say it, but like with the new buildings, I definitely do because I haven't played them anywhere near as much as the original set. But the original set, like, kind of like there's a strategy to how you build, and there's lots of different strategies to how you can build your buildings. And I kind of the game is quite tactical, but the grand strategy comes in how you're planning out the way that you're going to approach that kind of building up your actions. Because everyone ends up with a different set of actions that they can use on a turn, or and at the end of the game that matters.
Right.
And I think that there's quite a lot of different options, and knowing the best way forward, like which buildings are going to be better to take, is a huge advantage. Which, unfortunately for me, when I'm playing with my friends who have only played like 2 or 3 times, I've had that advantage, and it's just frustrating. I mean, it's not frustrating. Like, I don't mind. I love playing the game, and I hope they're enjoying it. But I try and sort of pare back my knowledge and just be like, I'll do some suboptimal move here so you guys can like have fun with the game too. But the new building set, no, I'm not having as much luck with that one. It's way fairer, I think.
Well, that's
Yeah.
exciting because
Yeah.
your exploits. One of the things I noticed is, especially, I can't remember the name of it, but it's the area control one. Basically, if you have all 5 regions, you get like mass amounts of points.
Oh, the sun never sets?
Yes, the sun never sets, and people always go for it. And I'm just like, you guys keep going with that way. I'm just gonna mind my own business and build up all my tracks. Like, you guys worry about your points of getting those. I'm gonna do this, and it's always been like neck and neck. Like someone who's done the sun track and me, and I'm like, you guys gotta remember, diversify. That's what this game's about.
Well, yeah, that is interesting. That you look at the points that you get from going into all of those regions, and it's the same sort of points that you can get by creating a strong network,
Right.
because you get all the points along in the middle in the chains. Yeah. So
Yeah.
that's where the balance and the different things that you can do is pretty exciting, I think.
Yeah, and I just have to say that every time we play, it's just one of those games that you never feel like it stagnates, because of the fact that you have so many options with the exploits. Even just in the base game, it's never the same because, as we said in the very beginning, placing out all those tokens, you never know what's going to be in each spot.
Yeah, it'll be different every time.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well,
There's so many combinations.
yeah, there is. So I have to ask, after this campaign, what's in your future for you and Endeavor?
Well, I definitely am keen to do more expansions for Endeavor. I've already got some exploits that I've been pitching, and maybe even some boards, which just like completely different boards that you can play the game again in a different way. But we'll have to see, if those are, from playing, if they are things that we think people might want. I always like boards and new boards and games. Age of Steam is like one of my favorite games, and it has new boards all over the place. So
Right.
I was super excited about the new campaign that they had, where you could get a whole lot of new maps to play on. So I like that, and I think it's something that Endeavor can do, but it's a matter of if that's something that people might want or not. And I think there's we definitely want to explore the world a little bit more. I think there's a lot there whether we use the mechanics that we've got in different ways. And as for me, I've been designing other games, so hopefully I can push some of those forward to get published as well.
Well, do you have anything in the works that is near publishing, or just everything's just behind closed doors right now?
Yeah, everything's pretty much behind closed doors right now.
All right. Well, Jarrott, thank you so much for joining me on Board Game Revolution's live interviews. Well, actually, this won't be live. This will be aired tomorrow. But thank you for joining me.
Yeah, thanks so much.
All right. And good luck. You have, 4 more days left on your campaign after today. So good luck on that. And I can't wait to see what else you have coming out.
Cool. Thanks very much. Have a great night.
You too. Well, guys, my name is Marco. That was Jarrott Gray of Endeavor, Age of Expansion. If you guys like what you see here or have any questions, you can put it into our comments below, or you can actually go onto the Endeavor's Kickstarter page and check it out there. Guys, have a great night. My name is Marco. That was Jarrott. We'll see you later.